Welcome back to the Timeline Rewatch, where we cover all of the Marvel Cinematic Universe movies, TV shows, one-shots, shorts, whatever, in chronological order. This week, we have Iron Man 2. This movie was produced or released May 7th, 2010, and takes place in 2011, directed by the one and only Jon Favreau.
Yes.
Jacob, as always, you're here again to talk about the next movie. How are you doing?
Not too bad. I'm excited to talk about this one. I went out and got a new sweatshirt just for this movie. No, I thought it was appropriate for this movie. We talked about the music. The last time we did Iron Man, I was like, you know what, I'm going to bust it out for,
That's fair.
for Iron Man 2.
I almost wore a Catan shirt that is like, we built this city on rock and wheat.
Yeah.
But that would have been the closest I could have gotten
Yeah.
there. So we just talked about Ant-Man and the Wasp 2 days ago. So we're back into our timeline, back into the chronological order here, which is funny that we were talking about Ant-Man and the timeline, and we got out of the timeline to go talk about Ant-Man, who is not in the timeline in that movie.
Yes.
Spoiler.
Enough about this. Let's go back to a much simpler time of Marvel, where there were no timelines, where there were no multiverses.
There was one timeline, and that was it.
There was one set of people, and it happened in actual time.
No, I'm not gonna say that. Never mind. All right, so Jacob, synopsis.
Yes, I'm not prepared for this one, but I mean, what it boiled down to me was, guy lives like he's dying. Like, because he knows he is, and most of this movie was spent him doing things.
Midlife crisis.
Kind of midlife crisis, but like worse than that, because like he knew he was dying. Like, he only had he's only got a short time left with all the shrapnel and stuff. So yeah, for me it really boiled down to just live like you're dying.
All right, I mean, yeah, he did and saved New York.
Yeah.
So.
Yep.
All right, so this movie, of course, we've got Ivan. What is Ivan's last name in this?
Vanko.
That's right.
Yeah.
Okay. It's been a little bit. So also Mickey Rourke.
Yeah.
He's Mickey Rourke.
Yeah. Phenomenal actor.
So yeah, I don't think they used him as well as they could have in this movie. I felt like he could have been more menacing, but he wasn't. But hey,
I think he was. I think he was menacing enough. I just felt like they would have used him more. Like I felt like he could have done more for that movie. But.
Yeah. So, let's starting from the beginning. I don't want to go every scene by scene, of course.
Sure.
That gets very old. Howard Stark does give a video presentation. This is a different Howard Stark than what we've seen before.
Correct.
Of course, he is older. We understand that, but he's much different.
Yeah. Yeah. Different person.
He doesn't even look like similar. Like, they could have used the same. Well, I guess, that Howard Stark is. No, because he was just in Captain America. They could have used the same actor and aged him up.
And they used the same actor that they did in Captain America for the Agent Carter series.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
It doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah.
That's fine.
They landed on, they want this guy to be Howard Stark in Captain America, but this was obviously before that. So,
yeah,
not much you can do there.
All right. So Tony gets served to federal court to talk to Senator Stern, who we later find out is Hydra. Spoiler.
Mm-hmm.
So he's a secret Hydra agent. I thought it was weird that Justin Hammer kept calling Tony Anthony.
Yeah.
But Senator Stern kept calling Tony. Like, why are you being so formal for it?
And this one opened with Tony jumping out of the plane, right? And then falling, to give the presentation.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Sorry, you're talking about at the
I'm talking
Stark
about
Expo.
at the Stark Expo, yeah.
Yeah.
Because I think that's an interesting look at, because there's this underlying storyline. I think we hit on about it in the first movie, how Tony's alcohol abuse and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
And you saw a little bit of that because he's definitely drunk on the plane. And then as he's flying, he falls down and flies into a firework and then kind of spirals for a little bit and then lands. And then after that too, when he's meeting people, it's just like blurs in front of him, like they're just shoving people in front of him. He's trying to get out, and I thought that played into the storyline of like him being a drunk and tolerating alcohol well and stuff like that.
Yeah, it's very well. Alcohol and the
toxin and
palladium, probably doesn't mix so
well.
well.
No, probably not a good mix.
Yeah. So I find this whole Senator Stern, Justin Hammer, Tony Stark thing to be really funny for a couple different reasons, because the new roadie comes in, Don Cheadle comes in, and he literally makes a quote. It was like, "It's me, I'm here, move on with it."
Yeah.
And you clearly, that's a nod to saying, yeah, I'm not Terrence Howard. We did change me up, and let's just move on, guys.
Yep.
Like, let's forget about it. We talk a lot about old tech alerts and how 6 months before Iron Man 2's movie was Iron Man 1, and we had that very, very old LG phone.
Yes.
And now, 6 months later, he has a smartphone that you can see through.
Yeah.
And it's like a glass phone that you can all of a sudden project video to different monitors.
He can point it at a source and then like hijack it. Like, that is no.
6 months.
Maybe Tony was busy. Now that he's not focusing on weapons, he's got time to invest it somewhere else. I
guess.
I don't know. But no, that's
like total
good
new
point.
tech alert. And I feel like in 2011, we were all like, oh, the next iPhone is going to be see-through. It's going to be like this. And we thought that was going to be the next iPhone. We never got that. So I thought that was funny. Justin Hammer was in one of the videos as well that he was showing that other countries and organizations trying to make super suits and stuff, and Justin Hammer was there as well. I thought that was funny.
And I think in that video it like twisted the guy all the way around, and he was like, "Oh, nobody was hurt. Nobody was hurt."
Yeah.
I'm like, dude, if you got spun 360, that dude's probably dead. Like,
so we find out that he does have palladium. Tony has palladium poisoning after a little bit, and he starts. This is where I think his like midlife crisis really starts coming in. He starts giving away his company. Pepper doesn't really figure it out, but she kind of thinks he is dying throughout the entire movie. Turns out she was right. So Stark gives Pepper the company as the CEO. And this is where we see Natasha Romanoff for the first time.
Yes,
as not as Black Widow, but as a legal assistant for Stark Industries. And we find out that she modeled in Tokyo.
Sure she did.
Well, I mean, you saw the videos or the pictures.
It could be faked, Photoshop. They're building her cover, so
I guess
it's S.H.I.E.L.D. working on it. Like, she didn't actually have to do that.
Oh, I guess that's true.
They're building a cover. This happens in every crime or like every criminal TV show I've watched. Whenever somebody goes undercover, they build their backstory so they can be whatever they wanted to be. So,
that's true. Okay, you're good. Okay. Well, I just thought it was interesting that she took Happy down as soon as like Tony almost gets a glimpse of like who she actually is too, because I feel like there was a point it's like, oh, what is that? And then she was just like, boom, distraction. So that was interesting. They sign those paperworks, and then we go straight to Morocco for that race. Yeah. And we get right into the movie. Like, there was no like build up to the first fight scene. We do see Elon Musk. We talked about Elon Musk a few episodes ago, and here Elon Musk is. Natalie's now the assistant. Is his new assistant in Morocco, and not Pepper, because Pepper's now CEO. Justin Hammer's there, of course, with the original reporter from the first movie. Yeah,
not having as much luck as Tony had with the reporter.
And Tony makes that awkward conversation about that as well. So, part of the midlife crisis, Tony decides that he's going to race his own car in the race in Morocco. And then, of course, that's where Ivan shows up as a safety official, and they have their first fight.
Yeah, and the lead up to this fight, I don't know, it's typical superhero stuff, but like I had noted here, like Whiplash is dodging sprint cars that are coming at him and like just tearing them to pieces that are moving like, I mean, those sprint cars are extremely fast.
200 miles.
200 miles. Yeah. And then Happy comes out in a Rolls Royce and nails him to the board. I was like, that Rolls Royce is going nowhere near as fast as those sprint cars.
So let's talk about this whole scene here. He pulls out his suit that he made.
Oh, and time out. Quick point on that. He was able to miniaturize the Ark. I find this interesting now that we talked about how the scientists couldn't do what Tony did in a dungeon with scraps. And then Ivan's able to do it in the middle of Russia with similar equipment and miniaturizes the Ark and makes this Whiplash suit.
So I'm thinking that if you want to make really cool weaponized things. Just have like no supplies.
Right. You just go to the dumpster, find a couple pieces, and there you go.
I think we could make something.
I'm confident after these 2 movies, we could make something.
So his Whiplash suit burns off his clothes. No burns on him. Like how?
Yeah. That again. That typical superhero stuff that made no sense.
And okay, so he attacks Tony on the track. This is where I think Tony has one of his coolest like suit ups with the briefcase. I think it was really cool.
Anytime I see that now, though, I think I saw this on Instagram. It was like Tony's build up, and they have like Pee Wee Herman, that's like, or Mr. Bean, like waiting for the bus, like checking his watch the whole time, like Tony's suiting up in increments. So now, anytime I see that suit up, it makes me think like actually how long it takes, and Whiplash is just sitting there like do.
Yeah,
like,
why wasn't he doing
batons.
anything?
Yeah.
Like that always gets me in fight scenes where it's like a group of people fighting one person. Why doesn't the group of people all just attack the one person at the same time? Why are we waiting for him to come fight me? It never makes sense.
No.
I love that Pepper and Happy were just screaming in the car being attacked, and I'm like, why don't you get out and run?
Yeah.
That whole scene made me real annoyed. Like Pepper just literally screaming the entire time. Like, dude, just run. Get out of it. You don't have to be where you are right now.
Right.
Yeah. So Ivan gets taken alive. Tony interrogates him, talks about his father, and clearly he killed Ivan's dad or something like that. At one
something
point.
along those lines.
You get something that your father killed my father vibes, and it was
it was
awkward.
It was about the killing, and it was about the credit too. Like his dad helped Howard come up with all of this, but got no credit. And I thought too, something he said was stuck with me. Something Ivan said, he was like, I'm paraphrasing, but it was like, I didn't have to win. I just had to show that a god can bleed. And I was like, oh, that's a really good point. And he's onto something, because later in the movies, it's not as much about killing the heroes, it's showing them that they're human. Yeah. And I think that's what happened in this movie, and that's what's going to happen to Captain America eventually. That's going to happen to all these superheroes, is that you don't need to kill them to win. You just need to show that they're not these super beings that everybody thinks they are. Exactly. Yeah. So I thought that was a really nice, that was a really good point to have there, especially from Ivan's perspective. So.
Mm-hmm. So Ivan goes to prison. He gets broken out by Hammer and some security guards. Hammer wines and dines him, pretty much confuses him completely.
So the whining and dining here, I don't know if you picked up on this. He said he had Italian organic ice cream flown in from San Francisco.
And they're in Morocco. Uh-huh.
I was like, you have got to be kidding me. Uh-huh. I picked up on that instantly.
Unless they were back in New York already, because they were in the same facility as...
See, I thought they were still in Morocco. They were just waiting to leave.
Think so?
Because he was in a Moroccan jail. I don't think they transported him anywhere.
Yeah, it's just... They come up to his jet. It seemed like the same facility, but maybe it wasn't the same facility as
I assumed
the suits.
Yeah, I mean, in my mind, he got put in a Moroccan jail and was waiting to be extradited. They broke him out, and then Hammer hadn't flown back to the States yet because he knew he was breaking Ivan out. I don't know. That's how it matched up in my mind. I could be wrong, but
then that's probably it. Yeah. So this all cuts into Tony's birthday party, where he is in his Iron Man suit and showing everybody how he pees in his suit.
Yeah.
Again, midlife crisis, getting drunk. This was probably one of his biggest movies, in my opinion, where I feel like he has a lot of mental health issues.
Yeah.
Tony does. The first one, he kind of has a breakthrough in his life where he's like, you know what, I don't want to do this anymore. I want to do this instead. This one was very much, I'm going to die.
Yeah.
I'm doing whatever I want to do.
Well, and originally he didn't want to have the birthday party.
Yeah.
And then he was like, screw it. Like, if I'm having it, I'm doing it my way. So.
Yeah. So at his birthday party, DJ AM, also known as Adam Goldstein, was the DJ in that movie. He died before the movie was released, and the movie was dedicated to him.
Interesting. I did not know that.
Fun fact there. Yeah, my wife had to tell me that during the middle of the movie, and I'm like, okay, thank you. But she picks up the small things for our episodes.
Yep.
So, yeah. So next,
I did think it was interesting during the birthday party. Like Rhodey comes, tries to break it up. He's like, everybody's leaving now. He gets in the Iron Man suit and then tells everybody they're leaving now.
Yeah.
And I think Tony kind of has. So they're fighting. I parodied it to Knock'em Sock'em Robots because that's kind of what it looked like. And then Tony has this moment where he screams at the crowd that's there, like screams as if he's the Hulk.
He thought he beat Rhodey too.
Right. And he screams, and I think in that moment it sets in that he has become the monster he was trying not to become. And like, I think that, like you were talking about, he hit another mental moment of like, this is not what I want to be doing with my life. Like, even if I know I'm dying, this is not what I want to be doing. And that's why he let Rhodey leave with the suit. He could have stopped him from leaving with that suit if he wanted to.
So there was a point later in the episode that there were security protocols for that suit or whatever. Mm-hmm. It was built for Rhodey.
It was, yeah.
The Mark II. Because Rhodey leaves with the Mark II. In the birthday scene, Tony's wearing the Mark IV, where he had the Mark V in Morocco, but the Mark V got destroyed. So, we're gonna have to start noticing, like literally pointing out some of these different, because every suit in each of the movies, even the different scenes, are different suits.
Well, in the next movie, especially when he has like
Mark
suits on suits
35,
on suits.
Yeah.
I do think that's an interesting concept, though, that Tony, and it makes sense for the character Tony Stark, that he's never settled with the first thing he does. Like, his dad built the arc reactor, he wants to make it smaller, and then after that, he's got 2 or 3 different versions of the arc reactor after that. And then, like, with the suits, he just keeps designing and keeps developing and, like, building upon things and making specific purposes. And I think that's really cool because it speaks back to who Tony Stark is, of, like, always being curious, always being inventive, always trying to come up with that new thing.
So we're at Randy's Donuts in LA.
Yes.
That's where Fury and Black Widow come and meet with Tony to talk to him about everything. They give him lithium dioxide, which helps with this palladium poisoning. So I guess that's good.
It's a thing.
And they put him on basically house arrest.
Yeah.
At that point, they cannot leave. Coulson's there to monitor him the whole time. That didn't work out. Yeah, so Tony's sitting there watching and finds a video from Howard. I'm sorry. Fury tells Tony that Howard said that he's the only one that could figure out the problem of his heart, which was the core, which was interesting.
Yeah, because Fury has like that box of Howard's old stuff.
Yeah. And that's when Fury tells Tony that Howard was a founder of S.H.I.E.L.D. And that's because they're talking about S.H.I.E.L.D. and Tony keeps saying, I don't want to join S.H.I.E.L.D. I'm not joining S.H.I.E.L.D. And then he finds out his dad was the founder of S.H.I.E.L.D. and that he probably should join S.H.I.E.L.D.
Well, and Tony still has those like pent up emotions about, my dad was never there for me.
Yeah.
Like he didn't want anything for me. And then like we're almost to that point where he watches the video of his dad and his dad has that little aside where he's like, hey, Tony, this is for you when you grow up. Like, and I think Tony has that moment of where he's like, oh, so this is what my dad was, actually doing this whole time.
Yeah. So Tony finds the old map of the expo, the 1974 Stark Expo, and a personal video from Howard, and he basically learns that the design of the expo is a new element. So he rediscovers a new element that they didn't name yet, which ends up becoming the new core to his suit, which prevents the palladium.
And might I add, rediscovered an element in his garage. Like, and I think I was watching it and he almost used similar technology that was in Vanko's suit with like the energy rays and redirecting the arc to create this. So I was like, so he's just little bits and pieces here. He was like, oh, that was cool. Let me pull that in. And then creates an element in his garage. I was like, what is going on?
Technology, man.
Yeah.
He rediscovers that element. Coulson does come in, finds what looks like might be a design for Captain America's shield. Did you see that?
Yes, it was like a mock-up. Yeah,
that was interesting.
And he was like, "What are you doing with this?" And he's like, "I don't know. It's in the box." And then he uses it to prop up.
And Captain America isn't around yet.
They have not found him yet.
2012 is when Captain America is released from the ice, and this is in 2011.
Right. That's a good point. Well, but if you think back to Captain America,
Also,
first Avenger movie.
the movie hasn't come out yet.
Right, I know that. But
So-
in that movie, Howard's the one that builds his shield.
Yeah.
So
well, it almost seems like an Easter egg. Like, this is next.
and it gives you a little like foreshadowing too of how much Coulson's into Captain America, because then later on during Avengers he like fangirls over him.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. So Coulson leaves for New Mexico. He says he has an assignment, so he has to leave, even though Tony has clearly left several times
yeah.
while being on house arrest. Coulson's like, oh, yeah, I got caught up on a TV show. Whatever. So he goes to New Mexico, which is going to lead into Thor.
Yep.
Because that's where he's going. And then we kind of get into the arms presentation, the hammer presentation at the Stark Expo, where, surprise, Ivan decides to manipulate the drones the entire movie and turns them into his own weapons to destroy New York.
And if you're Hammer, like, I know he's supposed to look like this cocky guy that doesn't really think about things before he makes decisions, but like, what in your right mind would think you give Ivan Vanko, who just tried to kill Iron Man, all this technology and expect him to help you? Like, no, he's out for his personal gains. Like, yeah. And I mean, I don't know. Hammer was supposed to be stupid, but like, could you really be that stupid?
Right. So they Pepper and Co basically figure out that what's going down.
Yep.
Everybody gets to the Stark Expo as fast as possible. Natalie and Natasha, Black Widow, whatever, Happy, both go to Hammer's his lab in New York. Was it? It was in New York, right?
I think so.
Yeah, because the Stark Expo is in New York, even though they're in California. Makes no sense, but it is what it is. Natalie ends up taking down 11 people, while Happy fights one single person. He's like, "I got him," and he looks up, and the entire hallway is full with people.
Yeah, because at that point, he doesn't know she's anything but an assistant. I think only Tony knows that she's working with S.H.I.E.L.D. So
yes. And Happy did probably what every other guy would have done at that time when she was getting changed in the back seat and was trying to look up. Like, I was like that. Yeah, I get that. Yep. I understand.
Checks out.
I understand. Natalie does get to the lab to reboot. Rhodey, who his suit's taken over by Ivan at that time as well. So right now you have War Machine and all of the drones attacking Iron Man, just causing all sorts of damage, which was, I can only imagine what insurance would have done.
Yeah.
Because, good Lord. It must cost a lot of money to get insurance in the MCU.
I was thinking,
especially in New York.
And that's another one of my hangups. They don't touch about the reconstruction and the rebuild of like what happens if somebody's house is like blown up or like.
Yeah, I mean, they
like
kind of cover that in Spider-Man.
Well, that's what I was just about
Homecoming,
to say. Spider-Man Homecoming, they touch on it. And then again, like in the Hawkeye series, you learn that
a little bit.
That's like her family was one of the people that were attacked. I don't know. But for so long, it was like, and especially in Avengers, they just tear up the city.
Yeah.
And then it's like, well, what do you do from here? Like, you caused all this destruction, but are you going to help rebuild it? And then none of the heroes really do. But yeah, somebody's got to. Like,
yeah.
It's a good time to be in the construction business.
They created so many jobs. Yeah. So I can only imagine how many insurance companies went under though. So because that's a lot of payouts.
Well, and also like, I don't know, if you're a superhero, like Iron Man could obviously help them rebuild if he wanted to with all his technology. Captain America is a freakishly strong person; he could help rebuild
as a laborer.
Like like Hulk is probably out of the question, but Bruce's science, like you could help come up with something like. I know, but I'm saying like, you know, like to be the humanized aspect, but they're too good for that. They're superheroes. They should just be thankful they saved everybody.
Yeah. So the end fight scene there was interesting. I loved when Rhodey and Tony are both in the middle of that like sphere.
Like a planet, and not really a planetarium, but
kind of.
Yeah.
They're both in the middle, and they're like, I think the biggest weapon should be up on top, and they both start walking. Yeah. And they're like, wait, no, I'm the biggest weapon. And then Ivan gets down there and is like, Rhodey's like, hold on, I got this. Hammer gave me this missile.
The nano missile.
the bunker buster or whatever,
Yeah.
the thing that could bust anything, and then it'll just like ping right off of Ivan's suit, and he's just like,
And I think Tony made the comment like hammer tech. And,
yeah, it's
and
like, yep.
Rhodey's like, yeah. He's
Yep.
like, yep, makes sense.
Yep. The infight scene was pretty interesting. Yeah,
I thought that one
was good.
was pretty good. That's one of my favorite fight scenes, I think.
I will admit I liked Iron Man 2 more than I liked Iron Man 1. It's just me though.
Yeah. I still have Iron Man 1 ranked higher than Iron Man 2, but
See,
yeah.
I don't know. Anyways,
what I like about these movies is that you get to see the more like who is Tony Stark without the suit. Like you get to see more of him. I don't know how I'm trying to explain this. In the Iron Man movies, it's almost more of a focus on him as a person than him as Iron Man. Where like in Captain America, it's more about him being Captain America. Where in the Hulk, it's more about him being the Hulk, kind of. But I feel like the Iron Man movies, you really get to see like the emphasis is on Tony the person, not Tony the superhero.
Yeah.
He just does all these things through the lens of being Iron Man.
Yeah. So Iron Man is eventually recommended to join the Avengers. Tony's reading about the Avenger Initiative and finds out that Tony is not recommended to be an Avenger. They want the suit, not Tony, which is pretty interesting because Tony is the suit.
Yeah, that one got me.
I mean, I guess you can give anybody the suit.
Yeah, but not. I don't know. That's the thing where it's like, sure, you could give anybody the suit, but could they? You're getting Iron Man for the decisions he makes, which you'll see in Avengers. It's probably a good idea they had him in that suit.
Yeah.
Because like at that point, why not just go with War Machine instead of Iron Man?
That's fair.
Yeah.
Fury did say that he wants to use him as a consultant. Tony says you can't afford me, which later leads into a one shot that we're going to talk about. Probably after the Hulk. Is it? Yeah, probably after the Hulk.
Yeah, it'd be after the Hulk. Yeah.
So this does come back around to being a consultant, and then Tony does ask for Fury for one thing, and that's that Senator Stern has to give him a Medal of Honor. So
and then he like puts the pin in a little too far, and like he's like, "Oh, a little prick," and he's like, "Yep,
must suck to have a little prick."
Yep.
Yeah.
Which I think is hilarious. That whole beef between those two, I thought was really funny. But I did want to touch on one thing though. During the Expo battle, I thought it was interesting. So the whole time you're fighting robots, obviously not real people, but they have like grease and like machine parts and splatter everywhere to almost mimic like what this battle would be like if it was actual people with blood and guts and stuff like that. Like, I don't know, I picked up on that a little bit.
That's interesting.
Yeah,
I didn't pick up on that, but now that you're saying that,
after they destroy
it,
like especially in the planetarium or that little, I don't know what I'm trying to think of. It's not a planetarium, but where all the greenery is, and they go around, they kill all those bots, and you look at like Iron Man and War Machine, they got grease and like just engine oil all over them and everything. I was like, oh, this is like it was. I think that's what they were going for. I thought it was pretty good. But.
And we also cannot forget that Tony and Pepper have their first kiss on the rooftop.
Correct.
With Rhodey.
Rhodey's like, get your own rooftop. Like I was here first.
Yeah. So that's a very important like piece to I feel like the MCU in general is that kiss. Post credit, this shows Coulson in New Mexico. He did make it to New Mexico where they find Thor's hammer.
Yep.
So which leads you right into Thor. So this episode and the next two episodes, these all line up. They're all in 2011.
Yeah.
They're all kind of simultaneous, where the end of this movie is the start of Thor. Well, kind of actually the middle of this movie is the start of Thor.
Yeah.
And then you got the Hulk in there because the end of this movie is also the end of the Hulk, the Incredible Hulk.
Yeah, because it came... Yeah, because at the end of the Hulk is when you had the credit scenes of Tony being the consultant.
Yeah.
So, which
was there even the post-credit scenes of that? I think it was actually in the movie. I don't think it
So
was
were there
post-credit.
no post-credit scenes after the Hulk then?
I don't know. We'll find out next
Yeah.
week when we talk about the Hulk.
But yeah, it just shows that, like you're saying, they're all three happening at the same time.
Yeah.
Because by the time that Coulson was alerted to the hammer, Thor had already been there, and like people there had tried to pull the hammer out. So Thor had
Yeah.
probably been there for a day. So yeah.
Yeah. So this is the fun part of the episode where we figure out if Jacob can remember where Stan Lee was.
Yes. So Stan Lee was back in the beginning of the movie when Tony's at the expo and he thinks he's like Larry King.
Yes.
But it was like his like
when
that,
he was like in that.
the blurry thing that I was
blurry
talking about at the
state, yeah.
beginning where he's like looking at everybody.
I
and
thought
they're
you were going to
rushing him.
say, and then he saw Stan Lee.
No, I saved it. I saved it
Yeah.
for the end. But I forgot to mention this. Someone he did see and then shows up later again at the expo is the little kid with the Iron Man mask. Do you remember this? So at the beginning of the movie, when he sees Stan Lee, when he's in the elevator, he like signs the kid that's got the Iron Man mask, signs something for him, and there's this lady there with him, and he makes a comment about her. And then at the expo later on, at the end of the movie, he saves that little kid because the tank comes up and he's like, oh, he's got an Iron Man mask, so they tries to shoot him. Iron Man saves him. That is supposedly Peter Parker with Aunt May.
Oh.
So that's why he always looks up to Iron Man, because of that little incident where Tony saved him.
Interesting.
Supposedly. It's a loose connection, but
Interesting.
something's there.
I've heard a lot that kid was the kid in Iron Man 3, and I'm like, it's not the same kid.
No, but that kid is supposed to be Peter Parker.
Interesting.
Something to think about.
Something to Aunt May, obviously a different character.
Obviously
but,
a
yeah.
different character, but yes.
Definitely interesting. Yeah, we'll have to look more into this one.
Mm-hmm.
All right, well, until next week, guys, that covers this week. Next week, we will come back with the Incredible Hulk. We'll try to make it exciting.
I got nothing.
I got nothing. Yeah, so until next week, guys, be sure to follow us on social media at Timeline Rewatch on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube, where you can catch all of our video episodes on YouTube as well on our channel. Please like, subscribe, and share the podcast, the YouTube channel, and all of our social medias. If you have a friend that likes the Marvel Universe, be sure to share this with them as well. I hope they will like it as well. And as always, if you see any plot holes in future movies or things that we have missed in previous episodes, we can come back and call those out. But until next week, guys, have a good one.